AI inventorship.
Yes.
Right. Big topic of conversation throughout the world. What's the current status quo?
Yeah, so it's been, as you said, it's been a topic which has been in the courts across the world. So essentially in the UK, it's gone to the Supreme Court. In the USA, it didn't go to the Supreme Court, it went to Court of Appeal, I believe. Australia, lots of jurisdictions, basically, they're all considering this issue. This question of can an AI be named as an inventor on a patent application? So there's a really interesting point as to why this is relevant here, which is all to do with if you're a company and you're saying, okay, we've got designers or we've got an R&D team and they're using AI to help their innovation process. If somebody says, well, should we be naming this form, this AI model, whatever it may be, as an inventor on the patent application, that actually does have implications, if it was possible to do, in terms of transfer of ownership, who might have the rights to an invention which was generated by it. So if you think a lot of the times, people who are using AI models, they're not using their own. They might be using it on a license from a company X or whoever that may be.
Yeah.
And if there was a question that saying it was invented by this particular model, then there's a possibility that rights might exist with the AI model and therefore would be the property.
Yeah, because it's certainly in UK law, the default, isn't it, is that the rights originally kind of are assigned to the inventor. Yes. Right? So the inventor is the first owner.
Yeah, exactly.
And so if that was then not a natural person, then that raises huge problems.
Well, and you can imagine why as well. When these decisions came out, there's a lot of interest from within the industry, because it would have been a huge spanner in the works, because potentially you're saying, well, all our inventions we no longer own the rights to, we don't own parts of these rights to, because we used these AI models and they weren't ours. We bought them under license, and there's no terms in the license which say the rights get transferred to us automatically. Yeah. Thankfully, the courts went no.
Yeah, because you end up in a really odd situation when you look into it more and more, because you get to the point where, okay, so say AI can invent. Let's take that. I'm highly skeptical about that in the first place, but let's just say that it can invent. It has invented, and it's the owner, right? How do you even transfer the rights? Because you think about in a lot of jurisdictions, it's then the inventor's the first owner, but then it goes to the employer if it's invented during the course of normal duties, all of these kind of things. How does that even work in an AI? And you just think you'd end up in this really strange legal position. And so I don't know. I think I get the sense that there was a kind of a bit of a sigh of relief when the Supreme Court took the decision which they took.
Yeah, but I think it probably does also bring into it reflects the changing nature of the law as well. So thankfully, at the moment, there's stability, but it is probably worth for people in the industry, or people in the industry in general who are looking after these portfolios. You might need to start thinking actually in terms of, not specifically for getting licenses from AI models, but it may be something that people are having to look at a bit more and saying, well, actually, what are my considerations here around licensing, ownership, all those issues which we're normally well versed in. People, it's something which has been going on for decades, especially if we're thinking about software licenses. But there may need to be a little sea change here, which is going on in terms of people having to address these new rights, these new issues, which might be coming up as a result of these types of products and these types of inventions.
Sure. And so, if you kind of similar question before, if you had a client which came to you and said, "I think my computer's invented something," right? What advice would you give them?
I think in the main point is that AI is still just a tool at this stage, and it's no different from that point of view to, let's say, CAD software. If you've asked a designer to develop a new brake for a car and they're using CAD, you don't turn around and say, well, actually, that CAD software that made
Yeah.
the break. And I think that's really the same point there with generative AI or AI in general. You wouldn't just look at it and say, well, just simply because we used it, it's the inventor. So there may be that there was a certain output which resulted from the question which was posed to the AI or to the model, which was particularly interesting at that stage. But I still think that there is a lot which is going to come down to what questions were asked, who was the person as well who looked at that one output from the 50 which were given and went, you know what, that's the one, that's a really clever one there as well. So I think that's what I'd be looking at.
So yeah, there's inevitably a human in the loop somewhere, right? And then that's the one that you can kind of claim as being involved in the inventive activity.
Exactly, because at the moment, what's produced by the models doesn't know what's good, what's bad. And that there is work which is going on there in terms of self-assessment, but it's still incapable of turning around and saying this is the perfect solution, whereas actually the human or the people who are looking at it are the ones who are going to be able to look at it and say, yeah, this is the one we need to take forward.